What's up, players? This is Jay from Epic Reset Gaming, and I'm here to show you how to set up a mixer, a virtual mixer to be specific, to control all of your PC sounds and how to eventually use it for streaming or YouTube gaming. So, first of all, you're going to want to follow the links down below and download the virtual cables and the VoiceMeeter mixer. Now, there are currently two versions of the VoiceMeeter mixer. What you're going to want is the VoiceMeeter Banana. I know it sounds dumb, but this is what you want to get. This is what you want to get, sorry. So, once you've installed the program and installed the virtual cables, you'll be ready to set this up to be used on your computer. So, we're just going to go over the UI right now just so you get an idea of what each thing does. So right here you're going to have three hardware inputs. That's anything that can be plugged into your computer. So a microphone, a external mixer or amp or anything like that. Usually this would be through some 3.5mm jack or USB or something like that. You have two virtual inputs, which is anything within the computer that you want to mix in. So ideally what this is going to do is mix everything that's coming into this program and putting it out to one output. And this is so you have more control of the overall mix, hence the name mixer. So what we're going to do first is we're going to set up the inputs. All right, now we're just going to start out with the simple things. The first thing we're going to do is a microphone and then your desktop sounds. So to do this, first you're going to have to set up your desktop output. So to do that, you would go into your sound preferences and you would go to playback devices. After you have this program installed, you have a VoiceMeeter input. You're going to want to use this as your playback. And for recording, you're going to want to use the VoiceMeeter output. So those are the two that you're going to want to use. This is going to take all the sounds from your PC and mix it through this program and then output it back out. So once you have set those there, click OK. And what you're going to do is I use the first virtual input channel for the desktop sounds. I renamed it desktop by right clicking and then typing in desktop and then hitting enter. So as you can see here, you see VoiceMeeter, and over here you see VoiceMeeter auxiliary. So I wanted to use the main one as desktop sounds. So because it's going in through the input, that means that any desktop sound that's supposed to be played on your PC is virtually going into this program, and then it's going to come out through this program, which is why you have the input and output set. All right, now this is what I want to explain about the output real quick. I'm going to go more into the outputs later, but just in general, you're going to want to know that each one of these is two virtual outputs, or each one is its own virtual output. So this is one output and this is one output. So that's something to remember. The same with the inputs. There's an auxiliary input and a regular one. Here's the regular one, here's the auxiliary. And this doesn't have to do with the same thing as this. Like this one, the output doesn't mean the output of this one. I just don't want you guys to get confused about that. This is just two different outputs coming out of this mixer. All right, so now that you've got your desktop sounds going to this program, how are you going to hear it? Well, for the most part, you're going to have to set up your outputs to go over here, which means you have three outputs you can choose. You want to choose your main one as your headset. Ideally, you would be using a headset, especially if you're streaming video games or anything like that. You want to be able to hear your game. You want to be able to hear your team on your voice over IP communication program, whatever you use. And this is what you want to be as your main. I use the Astro A40s with the mix amp. So I just went down, chose the Astros, and you click OK. Sorry, you click OK. And that's going to set this right here. So as you can see, because you picked A1, that means anything that is highlighted green, you're going to hear in your headset. So for example, if I unclick this, I'm not going to hear my mic in my headset. When I click it back, you're going to hear it. Now, this has nothing to do with you, what you guys hear, but what you hear. So the second one I would advise you to set up as an output is if you have computer speakers or maybe monitor speakers or something like that. I usually set that as the second output. So this one is a TV. It's a Westinghouse 24-inch 1080p TV. It has speakers in it. So I have this as A2 hardware out. So anything that has A2 is going to output to the TV. And that means that my microphones over here aren't going to be getting feedback from the speakers because it's not going to play back to the TV. So it's the sound from the TV isn't going to go back into my microphone. I don't have that problem with my headset because it's right over my ears. And of course, if you have one more output, you could use that as well. Not many people will. I do have a second monitor that has a headphone output, and I use this for a more specific thing. And I just set my monitor as the hardware out. So anything that's highlighted here in green, that's A3, that monitor is going to hear. Okay, so now that I've explained the hardware outs, you should be hearing any desktop sounds like normal because all your desktop sounds are coming in. It's going to your headset, your desktop speakers, and then it's going out. And here is where your virtual outputs are. This is what is going to be your your playback right here. All right. Sorry, not playback, recording. So you have VoiceMeeter output and VoiceMeeter auxiliary output. That doesn't have to do with each channel, it has to do with each one of these buttons. Just so you know, B1 is VoiceMeeter output. B2 is VoiceMeeter auxiliary output. This is going to be an essential part to using voice over IP programs and any communication device, because you don't want a lot of sounds being mixed through your mixer to also go to that microphone input. And I'll show you how to do that in a separate video. I'm just showing you right now how to set this up. So now that you have all your desktop sounds going out, virtually you don't need these to come out until later when you're doing more advanced things with this. But for right now, before we get into that, I just want to set up your microphone as well. So I usually use one of the first 3 channels, which are hardware inputs for the microphones. Whether you have more than one, that's up to you and your personal preference. I have 2 different ones. I have the headset one that comes with my Astros, and then I have a Yeti. And obviously I'm using the Yeti because it's way more clear. So once you have your microphone in mind, you just click on the source, and you're going to want to get it to come from whatever device that you have. So this one's the Yeti, and this one is my Astros. Now, that is going to be your hardware ones. I usually save this one instead of adding another microphone because having 3 is a little excessive, in my opinion. But the reason I use these first 3 channels is because it has more visual levels, and it has the ability to add effects and kind of change the sound. So to show you that you have this IntelliPan right here, and this is where I like it for my Yeti. I can make it sound like I'm in a radio booth by kind of adding an echo to it and maybe making it a little bit lower. And that's cool if you want that effect, but some people don't like it. If you're doing a podcast or something like that, you kind of want it clear. And I usually prefer this spot for my Yeti. Depending on your mic, you might need it in a different section. And just to demonstrate how this sounds is, if I move it over to high, it sounds like I'm like a walkie-talkie or something. And then over here it has more of an echo, so like maybe a TV in a room or something, an empty room. But essentially, the more you go up, you get an echo, and the more left you go, it gets lower, and obviously it's higher. So I like mine around right here for my Yeti, and I feel it feels more natural. So that is going to be your microphone input. You're going to see the levels once you start talking, once you choose it. Now to hear it, some people don't like to hear it. You're going to want your headset to hear it, and that's it. You don't usually want a TV or a computer output, like on a monitor speaker or anything, to hear your microphone, because it can feedback and it's going to sound awful. You're going to get feedback noise, and that you don't want that. So have it go to your headset, and in my opinion, just get used to hearing yourself. There's a little bit of what's called latency, so it's just a pinch off of actually being live. So it's okay to hear yourself through this. It could be a little bit better, but it's not enough to make you slow down your talking. So what I mean by that is sometimes if the delay from when you talk to when you hear it is longer, your brain starts processing what you're hearing, and you tend to start talking like slow, because you're interpreting what you just said and trying to say new words at the same time. Now, because we're on the input channels right here, I want to explain compression and gate a little bit. Now, I'm not the best sound engineer. I know compression changes some of the peak, I believe, and you can hear the kind of gain it puts into it, and you can kind of hear how it sounds when you change it. I usually have my compression on 0, and the other thing is the gate. Now, this is going to vary by microphone. Even if you have a Yeti, your gate might not be the same. This is more like a noise gate. It's going to cut out your background noise when you're not talking. So if you have a fan running in the background or something like that, or your microphone's near your computer, you're going to want to turn this noise gate up so that when you're not talking, the visual levels will be all the way off. For example, when I stop talking, it goes down. Now, I can turn this off, and when I stop talking, the visual levels are going to go down. But if I do something like breathe in through my nose, or have a slight like lip pop or something when I'm like licking my lips or something, the levels will go up really quick. The more you turn this up, the less the little sounds like that are going to do to trigger the microphone to turn on. Or to pass through, I should say. For my Yeti, I kind of usually like it around 2.5 to 3. I'll probably leave it around 2.5 right now. Sounds good to me. And it varies by your environment. So going back to these, like I said, you want it to go to your headset. You don't want it to go to your computer speakers or any speakers around your microphone. Virtually, we'll get into this later, but for right now, you can leave it alone. Mono, this button right here, just changes it from stereo to mono. So everything's in one channel versus split. Solo just means that whatever is coming out of this device, which is a virtual mixer, it's only going to hear that. So when you click solo, you're only going to hear this microphone regardless if you have desktop sounds going through. And of course, mute will mute it. So that's pretty much all on the input. Now let's go to the output. As you know, yours is going to be your headset and your computer speakers. And all that's going to be controlling the desktop sounds that you have coming in, which is right here. Now, you can have your desktop sounds go to your headset when you're only using your headset. So you could turn them off when you're not on when you are. Your computer speakers can always have it unless you have no way to turn your speakers off. Then you just cut it off here and it would be just like your microphone. You don't want it feeding back if you don't need it to. And here's your virtual outputs. You don't have to mess with that. Now, personally, I'm not sure what MC does. Like I said, I'm not really the best sound engineer, but solo and mute do the same. And that's pretty much it for setup. I'm going to explain this master selection before I end this particular tutorial. And all this really is everything that's being mixed going to its individual outputs. So A1 is your headset, A2 is your computer speakers, A3 is whatever you set it to, and these are your virtual outs, B1 and B2. Individually, you can mute them. It has this equalizer option, which I believe when you activate this, you can it messes with the treble, the bass, whatever you want to do, or if you want to change any of that. I believe that's what it does. I haven't experimented with it because I don't like messing with it. The way sounds come through anyway, I don't believe that it needs any changing because it sounds great in my headset. Now, if it's too loud in your headset, but on your computer speakers it's just fine, all you really have to do is to turn this down, and the sound gets lower in your headset. And if you right click it, it lets you input numbers or anything like that, so you can put 1 decibel negative or whatever, and that's just how you can control the volume. The same with your microphone. So you just adjust these to adjust your final output. Now, because I mentioned this slider, I wanted to mention the sliders on this real quick as well. Usually you don't have to mess with these. You just want your computer sounds at default, not any higher, not any lower. But your microphone sometimes can be too loud, and you can lower this to lower the volume of the actual microphone, or you could raise it so that it gets louder. Now, I have mine set on 0 and it's in the green because I have my mic set properly. Now, the headset's mics are a little bit finicky, and when you set them up, they could be way too loud. So what you want to do before you start messing with these sliders is go to your recording devices, pick your microphone. For example, I'm going to use this headset microphone just to show the example. So you click Properties, you go to the Levels, and you're going to want to move this down until your microphone's levels are in the green. You want them in the green when you're talking normally, and then when you're talking like excited or loud, you really don't want it to peak in the red. And headsets are really loud because they're gained up most of the time, so you just gotta move it down till it sounds more natural. Otherwise, you'll get a sound that doesn't sound very crisp at all. And that's how you set up your microphones. You usually don't want to do this until you set up your microphone correctly. And all of these vary per headset and your environment and everything like that. So you have your desktop output, your microphone set up. You're pretty much set in this program. We're going to go into the recording later, but this was your master out that we talked about just before I showed you how to set up your mic levels. Excuse me. But what you're going to want it to do now is to go to the menu, and you want to save your settings. You can call it default or whatever. I kind of gave mine a long name. You just save it as an XML, and anytime you need to switch profiles, just know that this one is set up as your normal PC use. I know this one right here has been lowered, but I'm going to explain why in a different video explaining streaming, using this program for streaming. Honestly, the recording function, I don't need to go too into detail about it, really. So actually, I don't really need another video for that. I'll just tell you right now. Essentially, anything that you have highlighted in this section right here can be recorded. So whatever's in virtual auxiliary output, which is B2, it's going to record that. So you just hit record and you could do a podcast or whatever, and you could record your desktop sounds and your microphone or microphones. It depends on what you're going to do for your podcast, but that's kind of a different topic. Obviously, you could set it up to record, A or A1 and A2. I mean, it doesn't really matter as long as you know what channel is going to what output, and that's this right here. So I have all my auxiliaries going to the recorder. Obviously, you know what these do. When you right click this, I usually only pick the post fader output. I don't like recording the raw input because you usually do that if you're advanced and want to mix everything after the recording and not really use these controls. So I have B1 being recorded at B2 right here, and you just click that, and I changed mine to MP3s. Like I said, you have more options, but I use MP3 at CD quality, and I'm good to go. So that's it. It's set up for your PC. Make sure that you have it run at startup and it minimizes to the system tray, and you're pretty much done. You just close it, and it's running in the background. I added a shortcut to my toolbar right here, so I have easy access on any one of my monitors instead of having to go to the task, mini task thingy, and then having to click that, and then having this window and all that. So that's it, guys. I hope this tutorial wasn't too long for you and it helped you get set up for regular use. The next video, I'm going to be showing you how to use this for streaming.